Welcome to the Sharpe Show. I apologize for our earlier technical difficulties that we had. A little bit, not big, but little bit of technical difficulties. Usually we have the big brain on Sunday, but today it's Friday. Why? Because I'm late. I was doing stuff last Sunday and I couldn't do it. Easter and such. So I couldn't do it last Sunday. But this Sunday I might be able to, but for sure I can do it now. So we now have a big brain Friday. Some of you are noticing that often we will have on our social media some form of polling, which will say, what do you think is more important or more valuable or something like that? Because I want to be able to deal with the issues that you care about or that you think matter the most. What came in second in one of these was family law. And I brought that up earlier for those of you who watched on an Instagram live. I talked a little about family law and Johnny Depp and actually Will Smith and such. But in this specific case, the question was what was affecting our children the most? And number 2 was family law. I covered that. But number 1 was CRT and school mandates. So I wanted to bring this up. People want to talk about it. They often want to know what I think about them, what I think about the whole issue, and how things should be working. So let me cover both. I think they're related, but not the same, meaning CRT versus mandates. They're related, but not the same. Let me first talk about the more controversial of the bunch, which is without question CRT. For those who don't know, CRT is stands for critical race theory. So I know people care about that. Here's the reality. Critical race theory, and this is why the arguments that go back and forth, I'm going to ask you, no matter what I say, you're going to be upset initially. But I think if you hear me out, you won't be, because the arguments on both sides are disingenuous. They're disingenuous because they're trying to make this bigger than it actually could or should be, even though there are sides that are wrong. But I'll be clear on this. So stay with me before you yell at me. Number 1, CRT stands for critical race theory. That specifically is actually not being taught in any public schools, meaning that specific thing, critical race theory, that's actually taught high school and college levels only, and rarely in high schools. That is the idea of looking at things or ideas or laws or environment, whatever the case may be, through the lens of race, right? And that is a thing that is often taught law, philosophy, those types of things, right? That's what actual CRT is. However, here's the big however. When people who are proponents of that go, well, it's not being taught, they are technically correct. However, it is disingenuous. And so in reality, they're not really correct. What's being taught is something that, in my view, is actually worse than CRT. Right? You may go, Larry, it's not being taught. I am telling you it's being taught. I have kids, well, not anymore, I pulled them out, of public school who were being taught it. So that was happening. If someone tells you that, CRT is not being taught, they are, again, technically correct, but there is something being taught in our schools that is painful. It is. Now you might say, wait a minute, Larry, are you saying it's bad to teach kids about slavery and racism? I am not, and you should. I am not, and I think you should. The reality of it is you are going to teach your kids about racism and about slavery and about our history how you feel appropriate. Whether I agree or not is actually irrelevant, right? I think you should talk. And the vast majority of Americans, I mean the vast majority, actually do want to teach their kids about slavery and racism. The vast majority do. There's a couple who don't, and I'm not going to help them, but the vast majority do. The question is, how do you do that, right? And is the issue of the mandate, particularly if it's blanket across a state, the right answer? I'm not okay with either of those two. That I'm not, right? That I'm not. If you want to teach your kids about slavery and racism in any way you feel appropriate, they're your kids. You should do that. I hope you do it my way. And I have every right to tell you that I think you should do it my way, but you'll do it whatever you want, right? The reality of it is what is being taught is being mandated, and The local parents don't have any say. This is my problem. You might go, Larry, do you really want our kids learning the stuff they're teaching? Do I personally? No. But if a local school district thinks it's the right answer, I'm not against them doing it as long as, and here's the big caveat, that there is a realistic opportunity for people around there to either go to private school or or right to go to private school or to go to homeschool. If there are realistic options, realistic, not if you jump through hoops and pay $40,000. If there are realistic options for local people to go to private school or to homeschool, why do I care what a local school district wants to teach? Here's what you want. Local school district picks. But Larry, I don't like my local school district. Then go to your school board and run and change it. The problem is with the current system, it doesn't matter, right? People tell me this. Well, Larry, I'll win the school board, but I'll still have to teach it anyway. You will, because the state will mandate it. That's my problem with mandates. So you actually don't have the ability to change what's taught in your school. And there are many school districts, and some of you in certain areas will think I'm crazy for saying it, but there are many people who want their kids taught that in school. Let them. They're kids. But why are we as a nation or as a state being forced without a local school district being available to do what it feels is appropriate? But Larry, local school districts will make mistakes. They will. That is correct. They will. And so will state governments. And so will teachers. And so will everybody, because we're all human. So the idea of saying because they'll make a mistake, there must be federal or there must be state oversight. Okay, maybe oversight. I would buy oversight. I'm okay with that in case the kids start doing poorly or things go wrong. Maybe you have some oversight. Okay with that idea. But we've had centralized control over our school systems since what, 1979, 1980? Is that when the Department of Education really gained teeth? For those of you who don't know, the Department of Education, I think, has been around in some form since like the 1860s, but it's been basically a repository for information. It hasn't had any teeth. It started to have teeth around 1979, 1980 in that area when it began to have teeth. Joe says 81. Thank you, 1981. So it was in that area, 1980. It had some teeth. Since then, 1981, since then I would ask, since 1981, has our education gotten better or worse? Would anybody say better? I mean, maybe somebody. In general, no. But Larry, how will we learn how to read and write? I went to school before 1981. Somehow I learned how to read and write and function and even have a cool podcast. Well, maybe not that cool, but still have a podcast, right? Even I figured this out. So it's not like you have to have massive oversight. The issue that bothers me is actually not CRT, which I know some of you drives you crazy. I know. But it's that there's no local choice, and then options for parents who don't agree with that local choice. If you go up my school district wants to teach things that I don't like, then it's up to you locally to get them to believe it, or take your kid to private school, take your kid to a homeschool, if the system is set up for that. Currently, it is not. My goal, particularly in New York State, will be to set up a system to where you could do that in your local school districts. And if you think CRT is awesome, teach it in your schools. All good. Teach it in your homeschool, private school. Teach it all day long if you like. No worries. To be clear, it's not actually CRT. It is something similar but worse. But teach it all you want. I don't have a problem with that. My problem is in the mandate. The mandate, because you might go, but Larry, we can't have our kids learn that stuff. I know some people can't stand it. If the parents want to teach their kids that, they're going to. You're going to stop them? You can't, and you shouldn't. They're kids. Your kids. You do what you feel is correct with your kids. I hope you listen to me and do as I say, but you don't have to. You don't. This is the critical piece. I do not want kids indoctrinated, because this goes to the next piece. It isn't just the CRT mandate. That's bad, but it's all the other ones too. The mandates that we have to have the special standardized testing throughout the entire nation. You might go, Larry, how can we survive without standardized testing? Again, if you look at what's happened to our kids from literally 1981 until today, it's gotten worse. And the more testing we add, the worse it gets. The more control we have, the worse it gets. It doesn't get better. It gets worse. So we keep doing more and it gets worse. It's not working. The more you mandate what every school and every student has to have, the more you break two things. Number one, the school is going to make mistakes because it will. But when a school makes a mistake, if it's just a school or a teacher, we can fix it, repair it. It's not the end of the world. What happens when the entire country screwed up? And ours is. Our education system is steaming pile of shit. So it's absolutely true. We know it is, right? It's true. New York State, disaster. Total disaster. We know that's true. It's a disaster. So now that we have that, and the entire state does it, the entire country does it, we all fail. So once it breaks, you see what's happened. Now we lose trust. Think about this. If you go back 20 years, I don't know, 15 years, whatever, most people trusted the school system. Most Americans did. Most did. And look, in my perfect world, we should trust the school system in my perfect world. Rainbows and butterflies and such. We should, right? It's a good thing if we trust our school system. Well, when the big error happens, we stop. And you see it now. People are not trusting our school system. They're not trusting our institutions. That's not a good thing. And you might go, well, that's a crazy, right-wing conspiracy or left-wing conspiracy. No, it's both of the wings of the bird. They both don't trust the institutions. They both don't. That's a problem. It's the second piece. We talk all the time about diversity. I see it all the time. Diversity this, diversity that. And I agree. I think diversity is awesome. I'm in. I like the idea of diversity. So then why do we keep having one-size-fits-all solutions from one central city? If we honestly believe in diversity, and I do, not just talk, I actually believe in actual diversity, real diversity, diversity of thought. Diversity of thought, the most critical piece in the world. If we are able in any group to get diversity of thought with unity of purpose, we win. That's the goal of it. Your best chance of success is diversity of thought with unity of purpose. If you can do that, you win. I would hope we always make that happen. How are we going to get diversity of thought when things are mandated? We can't. And when you break diversity of thought, you also break originality, entrepreneurship. All those things begin to collapse. You might go, but Larry, hold on. If I don't have rules and regulations on how the teachers teach, what's going to happen? They're going to teach. That's why they became teachers. Larry, are you saying teachers are perfect? No, of course they're bad teachers. Of course teachers will make mistakes. Of course, they're human beings. They're not magic. They're just people but they become teachers, not because they go, this will be a simple job. That's not why they do it. I mean, some with the summers off, that's true. But it's not because they go, easy job. I'll sit on my butt all day. That's not why they do it. They do it because they want to teach. They want to help. That's why they do the job, right? So if you go to college for multiple years in New York State, you have to have a master's degree and jump through hoops, and you go through all of those things. Then you get in front of a classroom, and I go, shh, do only what I say. Why did I make you get a master's degree and jump through hoops? I mean, I hope you know something. I mean, I hope you care. I hope you've done some work. If I'm going to trust anybody, again, I've got to trust somebody, right? If I'm going to put my kids in a school, that's what I'm going to do. I got to trust somebody. Am I going to trust the administrator who hardly ever sees kids and doesn't care about kids, only counts numbers? Or am I going to trust a teacher? If I got to pick one, I'm going with teacher, right? And if I'm putting my kid in a school, I got to trust one. I'm going to go with a teacher. I'm always going to trust the teacher, right, over an administrator. Now, again, teachers are human. They will make mistakes. They are bad teachers. Of course they exist. But I'm looking at a system. In the case of New York State, multiple millions of kids. What are we at? 2, 3 million, 4 million kids? Right? Millions of kids in the school system. Millions. I've got to make sure that I set the best system possible, that I help the most, and I'm available to assist those who fall through the cracks, because some will fall through the cracks. That is going to happen. But we don't have that now. What we have is one massive system filled with mandates. And when people don't fit in the system, we just keep shoving them forward because of mandates. We shove them forward because of mandates. And that's all we see. So I'm against all of them. Larry, What about the mask mandates? Them too. All of them. Why? Because how do I know which school has the right answer for which kids? I don't. But Larry, the kids might die. This is true. Kids might die in any given thing. Again, who am I going to trust in this case? Am I going to trust some bureaucrat sitting in Albany that bureaucrat knows how to take care of the kids? Or am I going to trust the parents of the kids? I'm going to say something crazy. Most parents don't want their kids to die. I know, weird. I'm going to be brave and say that. Most parents don't want their kids to die, and most teachers don't want their kids to die. So, if I'm going to trust parents and teachers, I'm probably doing a pretty good job of who to trust. Now, if you believe, well, we have to make the systems where this never happens, then you live in a fantasy world. Every time someone says, we're going to make laws, this never happens again, they are either delusional or openly lying to you. You're never going to stop. They're never going to happen again. You make sure it's the best possible answer with the best people you can get in charge. That's how life works. That's reality. So who am I going to trust in this regard? Not the bureaucrat. I'll trust the parent and the teacher. Will they be wrong sometimes? Yeah, they will. But if one parent or one teacher or one school is wrong, the rest can help. The rest can help. But not just that. Maybe a school in a rural area is very different than a school in an urban area. Maybe they should have different rules. Maybe they should. So why don't I let them do that and we'll figure it out? But Larry, some kids might die. Again, some kids might die. That's true. Might happen in whatever the case may be. The difference is, will we learn for the future or not? I would argue once we threw the mandates all over the place, we learned nothing. We learned nothing. I would argue even with the CRT mandates, we learned nothing. Are they working? Will they work? We don't know. We mandated it. Don't mandate it. See if it actually works. Then we'll know. You want to experiment on our kids? That's what you're doing now. That's what you're doing now. And the worst part is, with no consent from the parents. With no consent from the parents. If you're gonna experiment on my kid, at least have me say okay. I mean, at a minimum, give me a vote or something, right? At least give me something if you're gonna experiment on my kid. At least that. I mean, I wish that would happen at all. But anyways, besides the point. The point is, at least that. Let the parents decide. And I get that they will be wrong. I understand that. But everyone is wrong sometimes. The more power the individual has who's wrong, the more people are crushed when that person's wrong. And here's the worst part of all of this stuff. If it's just some local teacher or some local administrator or some local school district that makes an error, as long as the governor or president or whoever is the executive, the county executive was in charge at the time, as long as they can be, I would hope, gracious and helpful, we get past it. But what happens when it's a governor who screws up or a president who screws up? What happens then? Or a top administrator who screws up? You know what happens? Nothing. They just deny it, blame somebody else, and move on. You might go, well, Larry, because in New York, that's only Democrats. That's all of them. That's all of them. Now in New York, it's Democrats, but if Republicans are running, it'd be them too. It's whoever's in charge. They're not taking responsibility for this. They never do. They never do. They just go, well, it's because of this thing, and now we need more money. And if you're a bureaucrat, your punishment is more money. I wish I was joking with that. If you're a bureaucrat and you screw up, it is always the same thing. Underfunded, more money. If you just give it more money, magically, it'll be great. Here's how it works. If you give it more money, it doesn't become magically great. It just becomes magically more expensive. That's it. Why? Because you gave it more money. Therefore, it's more expensive. And what will happen next year? You'll need more money because it becomes magically more expensive. But will it be effective? No. How do I know that? What has been? And you might say, well, Larry, this one thing was effective. And maybe it was. I'm not saying, I tease this, but in reality, I'm not saying that every single government program fails or doesn't achieve its goals. I'm just saying the vast, vast majority of government programs do not achieve their stated goals for the amount of money they say they're going to spend. That I believe is 100% true. I hope any of you could show me I'm wrong. Well, that one thing in 1950 worked. Okay, great. That was 70 years ago. So all the plans between now and 1950 didn't work, and that one did. Okay, what's that, broken clock? Sometimes it works. The next thing I hear is, but it helped my friend or it helped me. I'm not saying that government programs don't help individuals. They sometimes do. Of course, they sometimes do. The question is a mandate the best way or the only way to help somebody? I would argue no. I would argue no. Look at all the deaths that have happened. Look at all the unhappiness has happened because of mandates. Look at how our kids are suffering because of mandates. Now, what if there weren't mandates? Would some counties and school districts still done this? Yes, they would have. But now we can look back and see, okay, what happened? Whoa. Brooklyn did this, but Queens did that. But Allegheny County did this, but Wyoming County did that. Okay, what's going on? Now we would know what was going on. And when the next pandemic comes, we'd have an answer. You know what our answer is for next pandemic? The same thing as this one. Shut everything down, mandate everything, watch it all collapse. Mandates are not good for many reasons. They're not good for our children. They're not good for our parents. They're not good for our teachers. And they're not good for our future. We should be allowing people to do what they feel is best and trusting the people who have the best interests aligned for the people that we care about, recognizing that there will be errors and there will be mistakes, but make the right decision with the people who are usually aligned effectively and give them the tools and give them the knowledge. And what will happen is over a short period of time, it will go well. How do we know this? How do we know this? If you're in business at all, you've never done any business, you know this to be true. A great plan, executed by people who either don't care, don't know, or aren't worried about it is going to go a whole lot worse than a poor plan executed by people who really want the best. Because people who want the best, they will begin to change the poor plan and make it better because they want the best. And if we all care about our children and right people are in charge who care about our children, they will adjust and shift and they will make this thing work because their interests are aligned. But if our interests are aligned by bureaucrats who only care about, did I hit the numbers, then they will hit the numbers. Will people be helped? I don't know, but we will hit the numbers. Will the people be helped? I don't know, but we will check a box. Boxes checked and numbers hit does not mean kids helped. That's a critical piece. So for those of you who said the mandates are hurting our kids the most, I think you're right. I agree. But it's not just CRT. It's not just mandates. It's not just not even mandating state national testing. Not even just that. It's all of those things. If you want people to actually, if you want parents to control their kids better, give them more control of their kids. If you want parents to take care, give them more responsibility. As we keep taking responsibility, if you notice, many parents of this day believe in their hearts, well, it's the school's job, the teacher's job. Teacher said so. A lot of parents feel that way. Just whatever. It's the government's job. Once you start doing this and kids start being told what to do by teachers and by administrators and not parents, you're losing control of your children. Let me grab some comments on this one. I hope I at least covered some of the issues you want. I'm happy to cover some more. But this is the issue that we're more concerned about, right? The more localized control you have, the better overall you'll have, recognizing that you will have problems. Joseph, did you hear about what Florida just did? Oh, was that the banning math thing? I'm not sure about this. If I remember right, you guys, I'm sure you can correct me. I don't remember the Florida bill. I'm obviously paying attention to New York. But if I understand, wasn't there a thing where Florida decided to cancel a math book because CRT was in the math book or something? I think that's what you're talking about, Joe. If you aren't, please correct me. But I think it's what you're talking about. The issue that I heard about this, and this, to be forward, this is Florida. I have not been paying much attention, so I may be off. Please correct me if you think I'm off on this one. If I remember, I heard that, yeah, this is through people telling me like videos I saw or something. that there was some type of critical race theory in a math book. And so then they canceled or rejected the math books. Is that right? Joe says, Florida rejected a huge number of books for classroom teaching, including CRT and math books. Now, let me bring this up again. The problem here is that, is there a kernel of truth in this? Yes, but it's disingenuous. What do I mean by that? Is there a racial component to math? In theory, yes, because of word questions, right? Now, the word questions actually are more class than race. They are race, but they're more class than race because more minorities are in lower classes. It affects it becomes racial by default, if that makes any sense, right? So there is some of that's accurate, right? I get that. But does that mean because of that, you have to add a CRT component? I don't think so. I think what you need to do is add a CRT component to the people who are making the books to make the books more class and race neutral so that now there's no change, right? Shelley says 2 + 2 = racism. No, what I mean by that is there have been many studies on this, right? The way that you talk in word problems, right? In word problems, it's often a class issue. Like they'll talk about things that someone who doesn't have much money won't understand in the word problem. Therefore, the kid doesn't get the word problem. So that has shown to be true. That is an issue. Again, that's heavily because of class more than race. However, because so many people who are black and brown tend to be lower socioeconomic class, then it affects them racially. I hope that makes sense. So if you're looking at that, awesome. Let's bring CRT to the people making the books, not in the books, so that you can make much more class and race neutral word problems for people, regardless of what part of the town they came from or how much money their mom or dad makes. That makes total sense to me. So put it there. But when you want to add it to the book, that's my problem. I hope that is clear. So if I don't know what happened, if he just rejected them, that's a bad idea. If he wanted to fix them, that's a better idea. Rejecting them, just rejecting them, doesn't help. It just makes us divided even more because now the left goes, see, he doesn't want to talk about race. And the right goes, yeah, get them CRT people. So both people yell at each other and nothing's solved. There is a kernel of truth to the issue with math problems. That does exist. So deal with that instead, right? Now you solve it. Say, look, there's an issue. Let's fix it before it comes to the book and we're good. But again, we're not trying to fix a problem. We're just trying to use the problem as a way of fighting. So yes. All right. Luther says, I agree with your statement on education because I was a BOCES student. And I could go on, but I know what it's like to be in a broken school system. Yes, let alone a toxic environment. I've seen it all. Drugging children, putting children in locked rooms, not to mention mentally crazy teachers and the root of a terrible system. It's the school system itself. I mean, realizing why it puts people in their places, like eugenics. Wow. Going, oh, yeah, there we go. So I wish compulsory education was abolished. You know, I don't think we're ready to go to abolishing compulsory education. I don't think as a nation we're anywhere near there. We don't have a system to where communities could support educating their kids, right? We'd have to have a system that would be able to support that. That's the issue. And we don't have that. So yeah, absolutely. All right. Let me see if I can go down here. All right. I'm gonna grab a couple more if I can. Jimmy says, ballot access is my number one topic. First thing needs to happen. So I'm making real change. Yes. Guys, for those of you who don't know, we are petitioning now. Help me out. Get out there. Petition. If you're in New York State, it's important. We have to get 70,000 signatures. It is crazy. They are punishing us. And we only got about 35 days left. So get out there and help me out. Yes, if you can. Please over to LarrySharpe.com/volunteer. That's it right there. LarrySharpe.com. There's a link in the description. LarrySharpe.com/volunteer. Click that link. Say what you want to do. Let's get out there. If you are not in New York State, you can still help online. You can still help with PR and marketing. You can still do that. Absolutely. So you still can help. If you can travel to New York State, we'd love to have you. All good. Come on for a while. You can't witness any statements, but you can still go out and help in other ways. So we need you no matter what to come on out. And of course, you can just donate. Hey, you don't have time? Maybe you got a check. Maybe you got some money. LarrySharpe.com/donate. Give what you can give. That's awesome. If you don't just want to give away, you don't have to. You can buy something. LarrySharpe.com/shop. You head over there and you can pick up a yard sign, a t-shirt, bumper sticker, whatever you want to do. You can pick those things up. More things will be in the store next week. So you can pick up any of those if you like. Awesome. Thank you so much. And of course, support my sponsor, libertarianism.com. I ask that all the time. I know I do. They are my sponsor. Please go there, click, share that link. It does matter. Keeps them happy, keeps me happy, and it's free. No dollars for that one. Totally free. And of course, like, comment, share. All of those things matter. Very, very important. So thank you for all that. I appreciate it. So yes. Sean says, my wife is a principal. She says CRT is not what conservatives claim it is and isn't taught in schools. Again, she's correct, Sean. She's right. She's correct. It is not the same thing. And that's my point. When someone says CRT isn't taught, they are technically correct. They are being taught something else, but it's being called CRT. It's like a pencil. And they call, say, well, we need some, it's pencil lead. It's not actually lead. It's graphite. But everybody calls it lead. So it kind of might as well be lead, even though it's not lead, because everybody calls it lead. It's graphite. It's a similar situation here. It is not CRT. It's something else. I think still bad, but it's not CRT. Your wife is correct. That's not what CRT is. That's not what's being taught. What's being taught is something else that people are calling CRT. I don't like that thing either, but correct. It is not CRT. So yes. Joe says, I want students to learn how government effed over people due to race. That's CRT to me. I like that one. Let's do that one. That's it. Yes. I'm with you, Joe. That's the answer. Yes. Matt says, no one should have their children in government indoctrination camps, aka public schools, if at all possible. Not everyone has that option, though. I agree, right? It is a problem that people don't have an option, and they should. Two things, though. I'm not against government schools if local people have more control. Right now, I know why they may chant, and I get why. And there's some logic. Some of you may not know this. Some of you might. It was particularly in Black neighborhoods. I know you say, oh, it's about race. It was about race. Literally, they were making separate but unequal schools, particularly throughout the South. It was happening in the North, too, of course, particularly through the South, to where they were making movies about it, where the schools were so bad, kids couldn't read at all. So they're like, well, we're going to take control and start to fix things and make things better and blah, blah, blah. And it was, I believe the people who started this, I honestly believe that the vast majority of their intentions were good. I believe that. They were just wrong. They were just wrong. And now it's a massive system that's broken. With the current knowledge that we have now, the internet, the understanding of education now, if we were to give some power, if not all of it, back to local schools, which is basic state level testing for things like graduation rates, for things like, college degrees and such, and high school diplomas like that, I think we'd have a much better education system. You can't hide the crappy school anymore. It just doesn't work, right? People would know it. You'd be able to fix it, work on it, things like that. So the more local, the better here, and the more opportunities. If schools were controlled more locally better, you'd have less people who would want to go to private schools and less people who'd want to homeschool. Some still would, absolutely, but you'd have less. And that's important. In theory, we should be looking to our institutions for this, but I don't know. So, yes. Mike says, made it in time to speak about CRT in schools. CRT promotes and intensifies racism. Again, just for clarity, what's being taught in schools does do that. And I will go someplace the opposite people don't often hear. And that is, my daughters will sometimes now get judged on how dark they are or aren't, and not being dark enough to speak about certain things, to say certain things. And they're judged by this, by their own schoolmates, and also by teachers and administrators. Yes. You might go, that's not true. Oh, it's true. I mean, unless all the kids, it's a massive conspiracy. Perhaps I have been fooled by a whole bunch of kids. It's a massive conspiracy. It's possible. I just doubt it. So I think you're right. It does make the way it's being taught, it does make kids think far more about race and skin color and even skin tone more than I've ever seen. That's true. Now, there could be a good thing to this, right? There could be some people who think, well, that's a positive thing, right? Let's recognize race and let's discuss race. I'm not against it. You've seen me discuss race here before. I don't have a problem discussing race. It is an issue. But why would I want to then make that next step and say, well, okay, so now let me judge you today, Mike. Let me judge you today by how dark you are. And now I'm going to judge you based upon that in some way. Yeah, I don't know if you can say those things, Mike. You're not dark enough. I don't know if you are. And I'm not joking. That's the kind of things that my kids come home talking about. Oh, yeah, maybe you can't say that. Or you can't talk about that. Or it's not your place. Absolutely. And that is happening. So again, it is not physical, actual CRT, but it is something that I think is worse. And I'm not happy with it. However, again, some people are going to teach that stuff. And you know this, Mike. I know you do. There is colorism in the Black community already. Who's light-skinned, who's dark. It already exists. We don't need this to add on top of it, right? That's not required. We have enough of that garbage already. But now we're going to add some more to that. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yes, I'm not sure. Okay. Let's see if I can keep going here. Let's see. Oh yeah. Happy Earth Day. Yes. Is that good? I don't know. Yay, Earth. I don't think the Earth cares about us. I don't think it does, but I guess happy birthday. Nazim says school choice now. Agreed. We have to set up a real system that allows that to happen. There's another problem with school choice also. And this is not a logical piece. This is an emotional piece, Nazim. When people say school choice, a lot of people here defund public schools and make my kid not get a good education. I know you're not saying that. I am aware that you are not saying that. I am saying what people hear. They hear, wait a minute, this Nazim guy wants to make sure that all the public schools get defunded and that my kid gets a bad education. That's absolutely not true. I think it's if we change the system, we can actually easily have the money follow the kid. Absolutely. It's what I talk about all the time in my policies. It's about money following the kid. We absolutely can do it. So that's why I talk about that versus saying school choice. About school choice, people start getting scared. Yeah. So yeah. Liberated Death says, but Larry, without centralization, how do we indoctrinate the kids? It's a valid point. How can we? I hadn't thought of that one. I mean, we've got to be indoctrinated kids, right? So yeah. Okay. Everything I said, I take back. I mean, we got to indoctrinate kids, right? I mean, what good is it if we can't force kids to blindly follow orders, then what value is school? Clearly, I'm joking, but that goes back to another point. The more mandates you put in, the more kids' originality and incentives, initiative is broken. The more it's broken, right? We said, aren't those cool schools, the Montessori schools and those type of schools, aren't they much more freer schools, allow kids to do more stuff? Yeah. I look at my own kid. I just started homeschooling my kid this school year, my youngest. She's thriving. I mean, thriving. She's doing artwork, writing books, writing stories. She's thriving. She didn't thrive in school. In school, they had her masked up every day for hours on end. She couldn't talk to her friends. She was in prison. So I pulled her out. So, yes. Shelly says it's gotten more expensive, so it should be better now, right? Yes, Shelly, it should. You and I both know it's not. But yeah, the amount of money we're putting in New York State, $28,000 per kid per year. Every kid should be a rocket scientist. Everyone should come out ready to go to, work for, I don't know, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, or NASA or something. All of them should walk right out of high school like that, dropping 28 grand a year. Why aren't New York State should just be, everyone's a rocket scientist. That's it. Or brain surgeon. Everyone. It has to be. It's crazy. Yes. So that's good. Warren says, what the CRT like thing that's worse than actual CRT? I'm glad that you asked that question. The CRT like thing is talking about things like, is someone in a worse or better place because of their birth? That is what the CRT like thing is telling about in school. I don't want to give too much away because I may be talking about people who like know who I am and they may not want to know. So anyway, let me just what I have heard from the youth, and you see it if any of you look at the young things like TikTok and Instagram and such, look at the racial stuff and the way they talk about race. Insane. They didn't talk about that when I was a kid the way not at all. Now it's out there. And they say things like, if you're white, you are a colonizer. That's a thing, right? That is a thing that the youth say. Now, is that historically correct? Should we discuss history? Yes. Historically accurate. Today accurate? No. Historically, yes. Today, no. That's the CRT-like thing that's talk versus actual CRT looks at everything from a racial component, right? Example I'll give you with actual CRT, and I bring it up all the time, gun control, right? Okay, gun laws. Okay, what about gun laws? Gun laws, do we look at it through the Constitution? No, there's a racial component. You should be looking at this critically through race. Why? First sets of real strict gun control were to keep guns out of the hands of former slaves. Now, if I was a white landowner, I think that's a great law. I don't want former slaves having guns when I was whipping and beating them for the past, decades. I get it. It's still a BS law, but I would understand if I was a former slave owner. Of course, I'd understand that as against the wrong, but that's where it begins. When they get stronger, how was Ronald Reagan such a anti-gun guy? Because he had the Black Panthers in California. Again, race. That's valuable. That's actual CRT. It's a valuable conversation. You go back and forth and think, how do we look at these laws based upon race? That's actual CRT. And if you're in high school, college, studying law, philosophy, valuable. You probably should take the class if that's where you're going, or if you're going through law or you're going to philosophy. Probably a valuable class for you. You're 6? You're 9? Why are you even bringing this up? Why? And you're not studying law. You're not studying those things. So what do you start talking about? Kids and birth and friends and judging people based upon color of skin. Now, when you get into junior high school and high school, you're dealing with what you see all the time now, all the youth, the idea of cultural appropriation. This is the CRT-like thing. I hope that's clear, Warren, between actual CRT and the CRT-like thing. There is a difference, and actual CRT is not necessarily a bad thing, depending upon where you're being taught and how you're using it. I hope that was clear. Joel says, let teachers teach. Yes, agreed. Absolutely. So, Thomas says, parents don't understand CRT nor even Common Core teaching in math and science. 100% yes, you are correct. Which again is why I hated the Common Core mandate. Again, perfect example, Thomas. Thank you for that. Common Core mandate was a disaster. Am I against Common Core? I am not against Common Core. I am against mandating it for all students throughout all schools. Let teachers decide, because there is, for those of you who've done some homework on this, some kids do learn better on Common Core. Most don't. Most do not learn better on Common Core, but some do. So if your kid is a kid who learns better on Common Core, then let a teacher decide, hey, little Jane, little Johnny, we're going to do Common Core with you. You're going to get the Common Core book because that works for you. I don't care how your kid learns to add and subtract and read and write, whatever, as long as they do it. So if Common Core works for your kid, use Common Core on your kid, and the rest don't use Common Core. Perfect example of that. The mandate hurts. It makes everybody the same. Common Core was a disaster. The Common Core mandate has made sure that New York State, and those of you who have kids in the school system know this, if you can afford tutors or keep a parent or family member home to help tutor, your kid will be okay. If you can't, your kid will struggle. That's how it works. That's an unfair system. That's our system because of mandates. You're correct. Yes. Yes. So let me go through here. Liberty says diversity, inclusion, equity is what's being taught and confused with CRT. Ooh, that I like that. That's close. Yes, that's correct. Yes, absolutely. Yes. 100%. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. Yes. Joel says, my daughter is homeschooling now. Welcome to the club. The school called CPS due to too many absences. The absences were due to the following the school's COVID policy. Yes, we had the same thing. We took our kid out, did all the stuff that was required, and they still got mad at us because how dare you not let us keep your kid in prison? Yes, absolutely. So Matt says the federal and state DOE has tied so much funding to test scores that kids spend more time learning how to succeed on standardized testing than learning things that actually make them well-rounded in terms of education. Yes, you're correct. And this is the problem. Teachers don't want to just do this, but that's all they do. Teach the test. Here's the worst part. Test taking, being good at it, has no value in the real world except one area, academia. If you actually your kid wants to be a teacher, professor, test taking is very valuable. Literally, being a good test taker and having a high IQ, those two things go hand in hand in success in academia. If you want to be a teacher, a professor, college professor, something like that, that's the deal for you. Please do that. Well done. Anything else in life, your test taking ability is useless. No value. Doesn't mean you're good at anything, bad at anything. It has no indication of your success in anything in life except for academia. So again, if your kid wants to be a teacher or professor, whatever, get him testing. It's direct correlation to success. Awesome. Anything else? Who the hell cares? Doesn't matter. He says math and language arts are heavily tested, so now my son has longer math and ELA classes and barely social studies or science and no electives. Yes, that's why you don't have civics. So I don't have shop, not in the test. I'm not joking. Why don't we have civics and shop anymore? Not in the test. The schools don't get money from the federal and state governments if kids do well in shop or home ec or civics. So why have those? What a colossal waste of time and money. I'm not joking. That's true. He's totally correct. We have to fix this. Absolutely. Warren says, as a teacher, I can confirm we do it for the big bucks. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Let me grab a couple more. So I know I grabbed a bunch of these. I'm trying to get some of these done if I can. Let's see. The New York State education system is a sleeping pile of shit. It is 100% true. Yes. So Warren says common corpus is not the problem. The interpretation rollout and sweetheart deals between DOE and publishers was the problem. Also true. Yes. Right. This was a big money grab because we have lots of money we have to spend. Our budget's insane. And of course, the reason why we like spending so much money is because to Warren's point, we get to hand out jobs for our cronies, right? And that's the deal. We get to do that. That's important. Yes. Michael says current gun control like HR 127 targeted women, poor, and minorities to prevent gun ownership. Yep. Gun control targets urban, low income, and prevents excess of Second Amendment. Now, here's the thing. I'm glad you brought this up, Michael. Most people don't know this. When it comes to the SAFE Act and many of these gun laws, the image is, see, we're stopping those crazy old white militia guys who want to take over the world. That's the image. We're going to stop that white supremacist from shooting people. That's the image. But Michael's right. That's not what actually happens. They take all those SAFE Act violations and shove them on the poor kids who are shooting people up in Rochester and New York and Albany, Buffalo. Puts brown kids in jail, black kids in jail, not the white guy that's supposed to going to get that white guy. That's not actually what happens. So, not that I want to get the white guy either. I don't want to get anybody. But the point is that they act like it's going to help the poor people, right? That's how they act. It's going to help the minorities, right? So they don't get shot. That's how they act. And in reality, they just throw more stuff on them so they all plead guilty and go to jail. That's the issue. So, Joe says war on drugs based on race. Absolutely. Yes. 100%. See, Don says, see, I hate that colonizer line example of the founding of America. Like, seriously, those of us who came here were basically cannon fodder with a death rate. Yeah, everyone of us are bad. This is the problem that we have and too many of us don't understand how bad this is, Don. We take the best example of white people in America and compare it against some of the worst examples of brown and black people in America and say, that's America. It's not true. It is true that most billionaires in America are white. That's an accurate statement. Does it mean that every white guy is a billionaire? Of course not. Of course not. It is true that by percentage, there are far more black people in jail than white by percentage of rate of population. Does it mean every black guy is a criminal? Of course not. So we're taking these two and saying, this is America. We could just look more towards class and realize that, yes, there are lots of white billionaires compared to black and Hispanic billionaires. That's true. Doesn't mean every white guy's a billionaire. I know lots of white guys. They're not all billionaires, right? Just saying. So I think you're totally right. It's not the right answer of how we're attacking people. Were there people who came here as colonizers and their goal was to just put people down? Yes. Of course they existed. Of course. That's every white guy who came to America? Come on. It's not true. So, yes. Let's see here. Alfred says, hey, Larry, you're the man. Thank you, my friend. I do appreciate that tremendously. Yes. All righty. Let's see here if I can grab a couple more of these. Dave says, war on guns. The politicians are hoping that one more gun law will end violence. You know, I actually the opposite, Dave. I think they're hoping one more gun law keeps violence so they can keep passing gun laws, right? So they can keep doing it. See, they're changing stuff, right? They're changing this. They're fixing things. They're making things better because they care. I think that's what's happening right now. So, yes. All right. Let's see here. Ryan says, yes, before we can start to abolish government services, we have to have the private infrastructure in place to fill the gaps. Yes, 100%. And that's what I'm always working on, Ryan. I'm working on setting this up to make sure that we are set, right? To make sure that we're getting set to be ready so that community can support itself. We're not there right now. And if we just stop now, a lot of people are going to be hurt. And I don't want people to be hurt. I really don't. A lot of you guys are talking about petitioning. I do appreciate that. Yes. Joseph's events with a high foot traffic are great petitions. Guys, please keep if you can, right? Keep if you can petitioning. It does matter. I appreciate this tremendously. I hope that was interesting. I hope that made some sense for you. It was a shorter Big Brain Friday, but it was a little bit interesting for you to kind of understand where I'm at. Please, guys, like, comment, and share. It matters tremendously. I hope it made sense. Please check out libertarians.com. As I always say, they are my sponsor. Please go there, click, take it, share it. And of course, you want some cool swag? We got yard signs. LarrySharpe.com/shop. It's in the description. Go get a yard sign, get a t-shirt, whatever. When you're petitioning, put the Larry Sharpe shirt on when you're petitioning. The whole deal. If you want to petition, go ahead. Come on by, volunteer, and of course, please donate. Guys, I'm going to be out all Saturday and Sunday. I'll be upstate. If you want to check out where I am, check out my Facebook page. I'll be in different places this week doing petitioning, and I will see you all maybe Sunday, but probably Monday. Have a good weekend.